Perfect, thank you. We will call the meeting to order. There is 4 of us in attendance, so there is a quorum. Cindy will not be able to join us this evening. Well, let's go ahead and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I know we don't usually do it before a public hearing, but I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
all right, so we will open the public hearing on the solar moratorium. We currently have in front of us a moratorium ordinance on commercial solar arrays. Yes.
Chris Farmer, 17 High Street. Couple of questions I had on this. Did you speak at all with CMP about this? Because my understanding is we looked at possibly doing something up at the school for that and then taking the extra power and putting it back into the grid. And I worked with Revision, who you guys are familiar with, and they said that once the array is finished up at Pleasant Street there, that CMP is not going to accept any other in there. We're at capacity based on the transformer in that part. So I understand, I'm guessing this was stimulated due to the fact there's been other commercial interests to do them, but I'm wondering if it's necessary in that sense. The second question I had on this was, while it kind of dances around it, but doesn't abundantly say it clearly, I'm reading this that since it's definitely commercial, and then it also talks about feeding a secondary parcel or something like that, that those residential ones who, like, if for some reason I decided to, when my roof gets redone, to put the Tesla tiles in or something, to do my own solar array for powering my own, is I assume that that is not regulated under here, but I didn't know if council suggested some wording there to just clearly clarify that, to take away. I assume the goal that what you're trying to do, if you put this on the warrant, is have it pass so you can do a moratorium. But I would see that with that not abundantly clear there, it might be worth a whereas that clarifies that, add an extra paragraph or something that says, whereas if it's a residential use and only used for the purpose of power on the particular property, it is not considered a commercial use as what's being done to this part there. I know it seems like maybe a little overkill, but if your goal really is to get that approved, I can see that others may say with the language here that it's not overly clear and therefore voted down. The other thing I would like to see, last comment is I am not a fan of moratoriums. I think it's it can be sometimes just to kick in the can down the road. And then you are allowed under state law, I think, to extend an additional 180 days. May want to be clear on that. I know it does say the 180 in here, but I think it's pertinent that before this goes on the warrant in June, that you've outlined a couple of meetings or outlined some guideposts with your goal and intent that by January 1, you will have something ready, whether or not it goes to special town meeting vote or you wait till June, at least that we moved the ball, because this topic of the commercial solar array has been around for, I don't know, 18 months plus, and I know the ordinance committee's been busy with a number of ordinances and chapter 38, but I would think it would behoove you to have a clear future on that, so the citizens understand that that's the plan, as well as any developers, so that it's clear that there's going to be an ordinance coming forth to deal with that. Because I understand the way it is now, there really isn't one, and there were a process to handle that. So I don't know if 38 covers enough of that to do that, nothing that I've seen in the. And that seemed to really clear that up, so I would think it's going to have to be a separate. A la carte ordinance. Albeit could be short and sweet, but. And I would think that that's something that could go to vote without having, could put it on the ballot in November if you're able to get your ducks in a row. That quick. But I would advise avoiding trying to extend it a second time. Moratoriums are really, in my opinion, they're the last resort when you aren't able to get everything done under traditional zoning and ordinances quick enough. Thanks.
Chris? Any other feedback regarding the moratorium ordinance on commercial solar arrays? Any questions from the board? Nobody in Zoom land? Perfect. On that note, I will close the public hearing on the moratorium ordinance. And unless anyone is opposed to it, I think we will. Anybody need a break before we go into the meeting?
We can't start at 6, right? Right.
Is that a legal opinion or just,
Well, I'm just saying, if we're advertising that we're starting our meeting at 6, then I'm thinking we have to wait until 6 to start.
well, no, it's our next public hearing that is holding our feet to the fire. We have a public hearing at 6 p.m. So take a break.
So are we in work recess?
We are, sir. We are. You feel better now that you said that word.
Right.
Reset.
Makes you feel like a school board meeting, doesn't it?
No, it's just,
I know people do that.
We're picking on you, Chris. We're picking.
yeah, we're no longer recording, or are we still recording? We're really not in recess.
The board would have to vote to go into recess, if that's what you'd like to do. Or you can just let the recording run. Have the next public hearing at 6.
Well, we might as well go into recess. I motion that we go into recess until 6 p.m.
There's a motion on the table. Do we hear a second? Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? So moved. All right, folks, we'll call the meeting back to order. We did already say the Pledge of Allegiance this evening, so sorry if that confuses anyone. We will open the new vendors license public hearing for Scott McDonald, DBA Fiddlehead Farm.
What I'd like to do is open a farmer's market on Depot Street on the public lot. Similar to the one we have down on South Shore on Tuesday. I'd like to do it up here on Thursdays. Just because it's public and walk to Depot Street as opposed to South Shore, everybody has to drive. And, you know, we get a lot of people saying, why don't you have one in town? I know you can do it.
Will they still have the one on South Shore?
Yes.
Okay. So there'll be 2.
Yes.
Did the people that go to the Tuesday one know that it would be Tuesday and Thursday?
Not yet, because we haven't got the approval for the Thursday one.
Okay. So they don't even know that this is happening unless. they-
What? The vendors,
Right.
we've talked to the other vendors.
That's
Yes.
what- Yeah.
Any other questions from the board? Go ahead. Sorry.
What was the difference? There was at one point, you used the
outside of Furbish Brew House, or that land, was that the same kind of
That is
idea?
owned
or-
by Furbish
Okay,
and, no,
So they didn't want us to have it there. We tried to continue it there at that time and they weren't
they said no.
interested.
okay.
I figured it was best place to have it now would be Depot Street.
Okay.
You know, I mean, reality, it's public land, and
And how long, or what kind of
it,
time?
it
frame do
runs
you
from
think?
May to October.
Right.
Usually we,
And
and
the
the
two-
first snowfall, and it's usually the middle and the May before we start, you know, because things just aren't ready. And, you know, it runs from 10 in the morning, 9, 10 in the morning to 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Setup and with setup and breakdown
Right.
included.
Usually start setting up around 9, start breaking down around 2, 2:30.
And how many vendors generally?
Anywhere from 8 to 12 usually. Every week, it's, you never know. There's probably 6 that are there every week.
Chris, did you have a question?
The only question I had was I think it's great. Used to like having them twice a week, and they actually had different groups. There was Joe Dunlap's group, a lot of them are from farther away, and then we always had more local, I think, on the Thursday group, there's more people around in town. So I'd love to see it, and I'd love to see it on Saturday too, if that ever builds to that level, because the only question I got is, procedural wise, can you just do it under a master because it's on the public? Or is each vendor gonna have to get a separate vendor license for the town of Rangeley? Or can you issue a master one? Because I will say, being somebody who just does, I just do honey, and there's not a big markup in there, and I know through the state, like I license my honey extraction through the state, and for an extra $10 you pay, it allows you to sell it at farmers markets and all of those things. I'm just wondering, because our normal vendor permit is, you know, fairly significant cost, right? Isn't it $100 per or something like that? If my only suggestion would be is it could be a master one under the farmers market because people come and go. Otherwise, I don't know if you'll get a lot of participants.
Dan had it on the corner first.
It was just one
That was
permit.
just one permit, and
Yeah.
everybody was coming.
Yeah. I just thought you may want to clarify that in the part, because I know that's how it was
Right.
one permit. And, but, you know, obviously Scotty will take ownership of that. I just thought it was, that way somebody down the road who's got a food truck or something isn't like, well, what the heck, you know, to do that. So,
It's kind of a different thing, but yes, it's a good point. I've got dot the i's across the t's.
And everybody will have their necessary food licenses issued by the Department of Agriculture and stuff, right? Anyone who's required to have that
Everybody
will.
that is
Perfect. And just to throw it out, we did approve for Blueberry Hill Farm to be there from 12 to 6 on Fridays
We
at
did.
that same location,
We did.
just so you know. I'm just throwing that up there so that.
I mean, they're welcome to come on Thursday if they want.
Yes, at the Tuesday Farmers Market, the lady, I think her name's Joanne,
Right.
around like $5 from everybody. Will you be collecting money from vendors as well?
Yes.
Yes, and what's that money go to?
To pay
The
the liability insurance that I have,
The insurance.
that I have to carry.
And the
to
$100.
come in. And the fee that,
The fee? Yeah,
Is the new vendor fee still 125?
I think that I'm calling it $50.
Huh?
That one's not that high. Farmers market one is different. It was one. Patient give you.
there's a different schedule for farmers
Right.
markets.
There was a different schedule for farmers market. It wasn't bad.
So where we've already approved, he gets the priority where he parks the truck?
Different day.
It's a
That's
different day.
Thank
Yep.
you. All right.
Yep, Blueberry Hill Farm is Fridays from 12 to 6. This would be Thursdays from 10 to 3. Okay. 8 to 12 vendors May through October. I got all that right.
You did good.
And I do see it's pending certificate of liability, but you're kind of waiting on,
Well, Martin Fergus is working on that and it's all up in the air. If it gets approved, we'll have it.
any other questions for the public hearing portion? Okay, as you know, we'll take it up under consent items on the agenda. We'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Nobody in Zoom land had a question, right? Okay. Rolling right along, folks. Conflicts of interest disclosures at any time during the meeting. If anyone has an agenda item and they wish to disclose conflict of interest, please do so. Adjustments to the agenda, Joe.
Madam Vice Chair, there are a few that I would suggest. First of all, this doesn't require any action. There is correspondence at your table, which is printed. Correspondence we received just before, and just after the chapter 34 public hearing last week. So this is on the website. If folks want to see that, it's the same material, except there's one email that hasn't been updated yet that came in today. The other items are item number 7 at the bottom, chapter 34, 38, and the solar moratorium. Item number 9, the draft warrant review, and then item number 13, executive session. I would suggest that the board take those up tomorrow. We have a full board. And there is a meeting scheduled tomorrow at 5. It was scheduled last week.
Does anybody feel, do we want to make a motion to table those items? Somebody, anybody?
Make a motion to title the articles in which Joe has mentioned in item under 7 for the town meeting warrant article. And the review of the draft of the town warrant until tomorrow at 5. Is it 5?
It's at 5.
The
Madam
meeting's
Vice
at
Chair.
5,
And I also would suggest item 13, which is the
The
executive session.
executive session.
And item 13, sorry, I forgot that one. I have the star.
Okay, there's a motion on the table. Any second?
Second.
Any discussion? Yes.
The only thing I'll say is, I do know a lot of folks expected, chapter 34 to be voted on today. I just want to say that out loud because I feel I wish we could have done it today. And I hope nobody gets mixed up, but I hope folks that are interested in it can make it tomorrow.
Right. All those in favor? Opposed? So moved. Okay. Review and approve meeting minutes. First is March 20th, regular meeting.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the March 20th regular meeting minutes for Board of Selectmen with any additions or corrections.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor? And opposed? So moved. March 21st, chapter 38, public hearing notice.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the March 21st public hearing minutes in chapter 38 with any additions or corrections.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor? And opposed? March 23rd, draft warrant public hearing notes.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve March 23rd first draft warrant public hearing minutes with any additions or corrections.
Second.
Any discussion?
Under item number 3, review of draft, we think it's town meeting
Yeah,
warrant.
the letters are jumbled.
Yeah.
Number 3.
Anything else? All those in favor? None opposed, so moved. March 27th, chapter 34, public hearing notes.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve March 27, 2023, chapter 34, short-term rental public hearing minutes with any addition or correction.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, abstained. So moved. Public to speak on a non-agenda item. Anyone?
I had a question.
On a non-agenda item?
Yeah, well, you tabled it, so it's no longer an agenda item.
Correct.
So I can't be here tomorrow because I wasn't aware that the meeting was getting changed. So I'd like to give.
None of
my-
us were aware the meeting was getting changed. There was an emergency that came up for one of us, and we felt
No
it
problem.
best that warrant article items needed to be addressed by the full board. So I do apologize to the
No, it's
public, but we
okay.
had
It's
to-
just unfortunately I have to be in Bethel at 2 PM and my meeting won't be done till 3:30 and I have to go back through Farmington, so I won't be able to make 5 o'clock. So I was wondering, now that it's non-agenda, can I speak to my thoughts on 34 or not?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I read through all the correspondence, which was good. I appreciate Tracy's efforts and the team to get all that stuff online. Overwhelmingly, there was a lot of discussion to either table it or postpone or wait. I've been kind of beating that drum for the past 3 months, and I continue to beat that drum that there's a lot of stuff going on at the state level and these things that I think that it would be in the best interest of the town to step back, table this for now, and then revisit it once the state has finished up their rules. I've talked to a couple of the large lodging establishments in there, and you know, they asked me, when do you think that'll be done? And I'm guessing in late 23 or early 24, based on the way that things are moving. I mean, government doesn't move fast, some government. And the ones I talked to, neither of them seemed opposed to that there. You also heard from one lodging established person who came in and spoke at a public hearing, gave his thoughts. 2 of them, but so to me, we've looked at before, it's not unprecedented to ask to table that. The marijuana ordinance almost got tabled the first time it was brought forward, ended up going to vote and then being defeated. And then the second time it came back by ordinance, by petition, which is obviously, in my opinion, the worst way to do an ordinance. So I guess there is the risk of that happening. I think pretty handily right now. Not that I'm an expert pollster in Rangeley, but I have a pretty good pulse. That I would think that as 34 is written right now, that it will probably get defeated. Which then the question becomes, you know, it can become a legal question there too, whether or not it can be revisited again, especially if the ordinance that comes forward a second time is significantly on point with the current ordinance. There is case law on that has been dealt with where it says that the public has voted on an issue and it's substantially the same that comes forward, then it can be an injunction against that. And so my suggestion is, rather than going forward, is to really think hard about that. I thought the legal opinion that was written by Fred Potter's attorney brought up some good points about people detrimentally relying on doing the expansion. I understand a lot of folks have said, you know, it's just a basic registration thing, but you know, with the Freedom of Information Act, you can go in and request all that information, applications, those things that are signed. None of that stuff is priority and protected, and you know, it's pretty easy with the PDF scanners to turn into Excel spreadsheets. You know, it'll be pretty easy for vendors to solicit all those people and go in that direction and have that information. True, I mean, all information now isn't really projected to be, in fact, within 5 minutes, I can pull pretty much everybody's every address they've had, every car they've had registered, every property they've owned. those type of things, if you have the right thing, and you can do that through my LexisNexis that I have. But my point is that we've looked at this. I thought Wendy brought up some great points with the comprehensive plan. I know that the comprehensive plan is required reading for all ordinance committee members and all members to understand in those pieces. But, you know, we're due for an update on the comp plan. It's, you know, it's 11 years old. I beat that drum for several years about once ordinances are 18 months past the comp plan, if they're not in jive, that creates a legal liability. We've already been down that road with light and heavy industrial. I think there's a great possibility that this ordinance could become litigated, which is additional costs for the town in those pieces. And that's being challenged throughout the country and the state already currently. If you look at Naples, which I consider a similar community to ours, if you aren't familiar with Naples, Naples sits between Sebago Lake and Long Pond. And they have a similar type of tourism community that gets built up in the lake community. They voted 3 weeks ago to table it until the state finished up their rules. And I know that Chairwoman Egan talked about and mentioned that other towns are watching what we're doing, I guess. I'm interested to know which towns or what's going on there. The state's working on their part with Sandy River and the plantations with LUPC. I just think that for global planning and how we do our whole community, that taking a step back for a few months is not going to materially affect that, that part. And I understand the quality of life and there's some challenges there, but I think those can be addressed with enforcing our current ordinances. We've got a fireworks ordinance, we've got a noise ordinance, we've got all of those type of things that deal with quiet enjoyment of our community. And it's a question of enforcing that. And I've encouraged those that are, you know, rallying and are opposed to the 34 to talk about helping to address the concerns of those who feel that it's a necessary part by developing some good neighbor policies, for lack of a better phrase, and those type of things to go forward. And I know Selectwoman Egan brought up my name again as part of the group that submitted the original ordinance, and I appreciate all the work that's been done on it, and I understand ordinance committee people that got time and invested. I can say from my own personal experience that I've worked on ordinances and comp plans and stuff ever since I graduated law school in '99. And sometimes things go to fruition, sometimes they don't. Sometimes things, when you get into a big consensus and group, they get twisted and turned and you end up with something a little bit different than you started with. And sometimes it's okay to take a pause because that'll allow things to kind of settle. Otherwise, we just keep stirring. I feel like it's, you know, appropriate for mud season. You go out there, you see a mud puddle, you kick it, it gets all dirty, it takes a whole day to settle. I'd like to see this settle down a bit and cooler heads prevail and see if we can get on the other side of it. I'm not impressed and I don't endorse the harassment of public officials about this type of thing. You guys are trying to go through your process and do what you think is in the best interest of the town. And, you know, and I know some people thought, you know, I'm somehow bullied about this or not, because I've changed my mind on this, but I've done a lot of thinking on it. And I've gone out and looked at other communities that are dealing with this. And I really think a nice pregnant pause on this for a few months, not any different than we're looking at doing with the, you know, with the solar, with your moratorium. You're saying, let's do a pause, let's get all our facts together and try to get that stuff set. That I think it's not going to hurt to do it in this case. There's been, you know, some really strange things I've heard said to me from people that have worked on the committee, and then it's really out there, and it's just kind of turned into this ugly monster that I don't think best serves our interests of the community going forward. And I apologize, I can't be here tomorrow night. You're probably saying, great, we'll be out 10 minutes earlier. But I think it's really important to say, you know, what, let's pause. Let's see what the state's gonna do. Let's map out a plan. Let's monitor what's going on over this summer. Do we really have these many problems that have happened? Are things going on? Are the citizens properly notifying? Are we dealing with this in the right way? So, thanks for your time.
Thank you, Chris. Any other public to speak on a non-agenda item?
You probably don't know me, but my name is Wendy Case. I'm at 36 Chestnut Lane, and I concur with what Chris said. There's a really helpful body of work from the commission to increase housing opportunities in Maine out of the legislature. It's about 260 pages.
Yeah.
You might, I don't know if
I've
you've seen
read
it or not, but I read it the other day, and there's a lot in there. And they actually drill down a little bit into some of Rangeley's statistics. They've done a lot of due diligence on this, and I agree that perhaps just to put a little weight in this process would be a good idea for a myriad of reasons, really. I wasn't planning on saying this tonight, but I actually came here because I had a question, and I know, I guess it's a twofold question. I know sometimes you can't answer them and that you kind of wait a little bit after the meeting to submit an answer because you don't usually have exchange with people from the public. But I was wondering if the select board had a policy and procedures page or directive sheet or anything like that.
We have multiple
You
policies
do?
and procedures.
I
So
was
with
looking, I was
regards
just looking
to,
for one online and I couldn't find one, so it might be supportive of your effort to have something like that, because for me, I didn't even know I had to come into the back door. I didn't know you chose a 2-minute speaking period for a public meeting, which I found incredibly short. And I wondered, you know, why did you come to that? I mean, I've, you know, been in a lot of meetings and led a lot of meetings, and sometimes you have 200 people. I get it, that, believe me. But usually in Maine, and in all of New England, actually across the country, it's 3 to 5 minutes is the average. And then everyone gets a chance to speak at first, and then questions if the board has questions, and then if you have time, if you limit your meeting, you know, totality minutes, you can invite people to come back in at the end. And that's it. Thank you.
thank you so much. Anything else, folks?
I had one, I just didn't know if the board was aware that the Builders Supply has a petition against the electronic lights sign.
No.
Well, just so you know, there's a petition out there against that sign, or said sign.
Electronically.
Yes. All right.
It's, you know, if one gets handed in until it gets handed in. It's not a petition.
Oh, okay.
Okay, folks, so on to boards and committees. We have the March 8th planning board regular meeting minutes in our packet. On to consent items. We have a liquor license renewal for the Red Onion.
Make a motion to approve the liquor license for the Red Onion Restaurant Inc.
Any discussion? All those in favor? None opposed, so moved. All right, event permit. We have an event permit for the Rangeley Recreational Boosters for the Blueberry Festival.
I'm sure I make a motion to approve the event permit application for the Rangeley Recreational Boosters event, Blueberry Festival. The date of 8/17/23 and a rain date of 8/18/23. Can you give me a second?
No, I didn't know if you were done. I was ready to second that, but I'm like, oh.
Sam did. Any further
Pending
discussion?
park commission approval, which I was headed to.
Thank you. And certificate of liability. Can I get that add that too?
Okay, but
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor? None opposed, so moved. And then we have another event permit for Sierra Bailey for a town park wedding.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the event permit application for Sierra Bailey for a Ringsley Town Park wedding. The date of June 10th, 23, pending Park Commission approval.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? None opposed, so moved. Vendor's license. Rangeley recreational boosters.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the vendor's license for the Ramsey recreational boosters pending a certificate of liability insurance.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? None opposed, so moved. And vendor's license for Scott McDonald Farmers Market.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the vendor's license for Scott McDonald, doing business as Fiddlehead Farmers Market, Depot Street parking lot. All the days, Thursdays, May through October. Pending certificate of liability insurance.
Have your second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? None opposed, so moved. Okay, moving on to appointments. It looks like we have a request for planning board appointments. From Jacob. I'm gonna butcher his last name, Bowyer.
Madam Chair, I make a
did-
motion to approve Jacob Boyer, who was our alternate planning board member, to the planning board with an office to expire on June 30th, 25.
Second. Okay, as motion by Ethan Schaefer, and he is the active alternate who wished to take the vacated seat, correct?
Correct. Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor? None opposed, so moved. Okay, table the town meeting warrant articles to tomorrow evening's meeting. We have a meeting scheduled between starting at 5 p.m. Correspondence, Seniors Plus record of services. That's the one.
Madam- yeah.
Are we all gonna say the same
Yeah.
thing?
I understand.
Yeah, go ahead, so,
So the number of meals on wheels, where do those come from? Do they pack them up here? They say we get 772.
I would have to inquire about that, Madam Chair, I'm not sure. Happy to reach out to them.
Those are done.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I'm talking about the Meals on Wheels total, that Judy Clark cooks everything there, and then there are people that go out and deliver.
So this is distributed directly from,
That is my understanding, at least from my understanding of Rotary, because the Rotarians have helped to try to make it affordable for people too as well. It's additional supplement there. Because they cook everything at the old school there in the basement, but then there's certain amounts that are delivered around by a series of volunteers to get to those folks who are unable to come to the mill site. So I'm guessing that's where that number comes from, and it varies depending on season and the snow days and what people do.
thank you, Chris, for that information. Ethan, what? I saw your hand go up.
I just wanted to make sure that Joe responded to inform them that he's the current town manager, not Tim
Yeah.
Hillary.
Sam and I both made the same. That it's probably best if they know who they're communicating with. Tim's been gone for a while. So they should update their records. Okay, and was this just for information? It looks like they're looking for our support with the county commissioners, is that right? I'm sorry. Okay, sunglasses. I hope you'll express to the Franklin County Budget Committee and Commissioners the value of the work. So are they looking for written support or just?
I think they are. I think they're looking
Yeah.
for support from the board, an email from me or a letter from written by me, but approved by
Yeah.
you.
Did they have a date when they needed that by?
I know that the county budget recently went to budget committee, so I would think that probably soon.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it did. Okay. So folks, did you want to make a motion to have him write a letter of support? What's your take on this?
I don't see any reason not to support it.
Was that your motion, Ethan?
Well, one my take first. So, yeah, I motion to have Joe write a letter of support for the Heritage Trust's initiative for the Mega Springs Trail and Birdwalk to the county commissioner.
Oops, where'd you go, honey?
Oh,
Where'd I go?
Back on Seniors Plus,
Oh.
record of services, they're asking us to write a letter of support for the county
No,
commissioners.
I thought we already
I'm
did
so
that.
sorry. No.
I apologize.
Nope, I'm so sorry.
I amend my motion. I retract my motion. And I'll let Shelley give the motion because.
So, okay, so I just-
Yes, go ahead.
so are they asking instead of having to go to the towns, are they asking for support to go to the county? So
Correct.
that's what they're looking to do instead.
Yes. Madam Chair.
That's what I took from the third paragraph, so we appreciate, yeah, we are appreciative and thankful for the support of Rangeley. We hope you will express to the Franklin County Budget Committee and the commissioners the value of the work we do. So that would, by using the language express, it indicated to me they were looking for something from us in writing to the commissioners. If I am wrong on that, just let me know.
I believe you're correct.
Yeah.
A little distracted today.
That's
I apologize.
motion?
Oh, sorry. Sorry. hang on,
No,
sorry.
go ahead.
So they're looking for the county to go back to. First, they want a letter for Seniors Plus, Franklin County Adult and Community Education. SAPARS, in addition to Androscoggin Healthcare and Hospice, in addition to Franklin County Children's Task Force.
Madam Chair, I think that could be accomplished in one letter, by referencing all of those organizations. If the board were inclined to do that. You're not required to do this.
Okay, so
I see where you're leaning, Shelley. Go ahead, please.
they
speak
took it
freely.
away to cut the budget for the county, because not necessarily everybody benefits from some of the resources. And that's the only reason why I hesitate. And mainly because I know when the budget was first presented, it was like a 29% increase. And I don't think these were accounted in that 29% county increase. So that's the only thing I'm struggling with. To make the county do donations. Again,
Can I ask you, Shelley, if you feel that we offer some type of service that will cover each of these ones that are covered by this if we don't support this organization?
we do Seniors Plus, right? That's on our donations. I don't have my book. Western Maine Community Action, we donate to that too.
So they've already requested funds from us.
We don't
Directly,
I don't think
haven't
we do for the Franklin County Children's Task Force.
No.
Or the Franklin County Adult and Community Educational.
Or the infrastructure.
And do we do hospice? Right, Androscoggin Home Care and Hospice.
I don't think so.
Not that people don't use those, but I mean, they don't have. Looking at this report, it looks like Seniors Plus, we do use that. Those have numbers of usage, but it doesn't look like the Franklin County Adult and Community Education. Just looking for the town of Rangeley. There's some like 10, I think, total. And then Androscoggin Home Care and Hospice. We haven't seen any on that. Chris has a question.
Yes.
I just want to provide a comment. I've watched a few and read up on the county stuff, and they've pushed back quite a bit from nonprofits all across the board the past
they did.
recent years. And politically wise, it might be better to sit it out versus get in the middle of that, because I guess other than maybe you could send a letter and say, our town has specifically placed on the warrant the following items, and this is the ones we supported last year. So they have it as a point of reference, but I know the counties kind of put that back onto the towns to determine
Right.
what they were gonna do, so it may not be there's some other hills to die on with the county budget, so. They've got a lot of expenses coming in. And that's one of our that's our next largest line item after the school budget. That's where we've had the largest increase historically in the past 3 to 5 years.
Okay, folks, so hearing no motion. We've obtained the information and we're moving on. All right, old business, Mingo Springs Trail and Birdwalk Conservation Project.
Madam Chair, I have provided a letter of support based on your last meeting. What I did provide you last time was the documentation that's in your packet. So it's a little late, but I wanted to make sure you had it. And the Economic Opportunity Committee has also reviewed this and supports this also.
They voted on that this morning, right?
Correct.
Perfect. Any questions from the board? Any questions from the public? The review of draft town warrant has been moved to tomorrow evening's meeting as well. Again, tomorrow evening meeting begins at 5 p.m. New business. Discussion to request for time limits on select board meetings.
That was me.
I was waiting. I didn't know.
Um,
Are we keeping you up past your bedtime?
no, and I don't mind a long meeting sometimes, like a real long meeting. When I say a long meeting, I mean past 2 hours. Reason being, and we all take this job, we all seek to be elected to this job. And we get paid a small amount for this job for the amount of hours that we put in. It's not about that. It's my feeling that once a meeting breaches 2 hours, the productivity can decrease. And to sit in a chair this long and deal with numbers and decisions and every bit of information that we have here, I want to make sure that we're always making solid decisions, and it's not just about getting home to go to bed or to have something to eat. So I would be in support of a 2-hour limit. I think it would also generate more meaningful discussion where we stay on point and people would hesitate to wander, which we all do. That way we can stay on the agenda item and get through it and not end up talking about things that aren't absolutely involved with what's on this agenda. Those are my thoughts.
Any other feedback?
I just think that when we take position, we have a commitment, the job has to get done. I mean, there's been budget meetings where we've definitely gone over 2 hours, but we look at those numbers like for other meetings. So if there's something to question on that, I mean, I think we're pretty good about staying on track and we allow people to speak at our meetings and stuff. I just think that that's just the commitment that you make.
Are you wanting that to include like executive session time as well, or just our actual meeting, our BOS, our board of selectmen Monday meetings?
With the feedback that Shelley just gave, probably just the meetings, but sometimes we have multiple executive sessions in one meeting and a hearing prior. And yeah, we do it sometimes to squeeze a lot of things in, but if we're diligent about things like we did tonight when we're going through consent items and stuff, not that everything doesn't warrant being talked about, but make sure that whatever discussion about the topics is actual fruitful discussion. We all like to have a good time, and it's nice to keep the room light, but I just want to make sure that we're doing the job on the piece of paper and not running into other places, which happens often, in my opinion.
I can see where 2 hours is more than feasible
I would
for
think so.
the majority of our standard meetings.
Yep.
I absolutely can see that argument. As long as we go into it knowing that those budget committee ones the budget ones are gonna
Sure.
sometimes be 4 hours, depending on how much we try and cram in one night. I mean, I certainly see. And we typically are out of here relatively quickly, as long as we stay on task. Did you want to see, were you hoping for a motion for that, or was it just a point of discussion for you, Ethan?
It was a point of discussion to see how the rest of the board felt, but I would not want to make a motion and vote on this without 5 board members.
Perfect, okay. Okay, so would you like to see it on,
On a future agenda.
please, sir?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you, Ethan. It's a discussion worth having. No. No.
May I speak on this? So we went through the same thing with school board. And actually what we did is we set a 2-hour, our meeting starts at 6, at 8. At 8 o'clock, if we need to go forward, we take a vote. And then we decide then as a group collectively whether we will extend the meeting for another 30 minutes or something like that. We found that's effective to get in there, and it also helps you, it depends on your chair, but I think you can be effective of keeping things focused and then deciding, once discussion starts going 10, 15 minutes in a direction you don't have there, then you can say, let's table this to next week, give everybody some time to think about it. We just did that recently with our school calendar. We weren't quite there, so we said, let's table it to the next month. And we went from we used to have 2 meetings a month, and we're down to 1 meeting a month, but it all depends on your style on those pieces. But I think if you also work with your agenda part well with your chair to get the important items that definitely have to get done towards the front part of your meeting, and then as close as you can in your new business, and then some of the things that are gonna take a little bit longer, put it towards the end. I call it the David Letterman approach. You get your couple good guests on, and then sometimes you have to bump the third guest to the next show. It's been a pretty effective tool, because I hear it. I'm a general person. I believe 1 hour is about maximum for a meeting. I'm involved with another group that used to have 3-hour meetings. We've cut it down now to maximum an hour, and seems to work pretty efficiently. So I think if you work from that standpoint, I think you guys could get there as a group, but asking permission of the group to keep going so people don't feel hostage after 2 hours, we found was an effective tool. I don't know if that's something you might want to entertain, but then that way the collective group goes, no, I think we should stay and keep going, or no, let's call it. So just a suggestion.
Thank you, Chris, for that feedback. Anything else?
Just one more thing. I think Chris brought up a couple of good points. I actually meant to touch on this as far as important items, not to say that every item on this agenda is important, but for lack of a better word, touchy items or items that are gonna call for longer discussion and deeper thought as opposed to consent items and such. My brain works better early on and not after sitting in this chair for 2 hours. And if all of a sudden we're deciding something that affects people's lives immensely and it's on the back end, by that time, my brain's not as fresh as it was when we started. And you may have developed feelings about certain things on your way there, and your mood might have changed by the time you get there. That's just how it works with me.
Thank you so much. Okay, ICS rate increase, Franklin Savings Bank.
Informational, Madam Chair. We're still working on the program that you requested. Once the budget season's wrapped up, we should be able to get to you. This is just something that happened automatically. Which is an increase in the sweep, first increase in the interest rate of the sweep account.
Any questions?
So, and the general account that we have, we're getting 2.25.
I think it's 2%.
Hmm?
2%.
With an additional Fed 0.25 increase that took place towards the end of last week.
It's 2%.
Two,
I think we were at 1.75 prior to this.
okay, because I read it at like 2.25.
With the additional.
Hmm?
Yeah, I mean, it's just saying with the additional 2.5 that increase made it to 2.
Okay.
All good, all good. Town manager reports. We don't have any department head updates. Those come to us monthly. Calendar. Okay, April 4th, 2023, 5 PM select board meeting. That is tomorrow evening. Start time 5 PM. It is on the calendar that it will end by 7. I did see that, just so you know. There's your 2 hours. Okay, the week of April 10th is deadline for the warrant to the clerk. Ethan, we still have down information that you are leaving on the 4th,
Nope.
no, 7th.
Yeah, I'll be going all of next. week.
7th to the 14th,
Yep.
right? And then you, Sam, are 10th to the
I'm back on the 10th.
back on the 10th and leaving when?
I'm leaving on the 7th.
Okay.
That's my day, I'm not available.
April 14th, nomination papers are due to the clerk. And we need to reschedule our April 17th meeting. The April 18th, which is standard practice for us to move a Monday holiday to a Tuesday meeting. All good? Perfect.
Need a motion.
Hmm,
Need a motion.
what?
Need a motion?
I don't know. If you'd like to make one, yeah.
Make a motion to reschedule the regularly scheduled selectmen meeting for April 17th, 2023, to move to April 18th, 2023, in celebration of Patriots Day.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, that's my daughter and my father's birthday, so there's a chance I'm not gonna be here.
So do you want to
Does- does-
reschedule?
Doesn't mean you can't have a meeting, just make sure you have quorum.
Thank you.
No, thank you for that information, Ethan. All those in favor? Opposed, abstaining, so moved. Okay, other business, monthly financials were provided via email. Coleman Springs February usage provided. Everybody should have that sheet. Totals for February 2023. Maine Sustainable Forestry Initiative information provided. Looks like we have a letter from the program coordinator. Offering us access to the 2022 progress report on Maine Sustainable Forestry Initiative. Okay, any select board communication? Ethan,
No,
Shelley?
Yeah, could we get a copy of, you know, how we have the comparisons with the budget for the expenses? Could we get them the same for the line items for revenues? You don't have to like do each individual, but to see what category we are at, if the revenues are increasing to offset the expenses.
So similar to the expense summary report you sent by email.
Yeah, no, to the, you know, how at the bottom of the expenses, it says actual for 2000, for 2020, 2021, 2022. Is there any way to get those years of revenues so we can see if those are increasing each year?
Okay, I think you're talking about the end, the last page of the budget,
Mhm.
the working operating
Yep.
budget that we're working on.
Yep.
I can check on that.
Yep.
I
Even we did
think
like-
we could do that.
I believe in Trio you can. I was talking to another town manager at a different town and they said that with Trio, it's like with the expenses, you don't have to like put every individual's, you know, column that there is, but you could just put the category.
Right.
And then have that presented so we can see,
How many years back, Chair, would you like to go?
just to compare,
3 years?
yeah, what we have with the expenses now.
Sam, anything for me, Jeff? I have nothing this evening. Okay, we're not doing the executive session has also been tabled. I will entertain a motion to adjourn. What time is it? 6:55. I hear a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? None opposed, so moved.
I get an extra hour for another meeting.